Spring 1945, rural Pennsylvania. Over 3,000 German women arrive on American soil as prisoners of war. The first time in United States history. These aren't hardened soldiers. They're nurses, radio operators, medical assistants, auxiliaries, captured in the final desperate collapse of the Third Reich. Transferred from overcrowded British camps, they've heard the stories, the warnings. Nazi propaganda still echoing in their minds. Americans show no mercy, especially to women. The trucks rumble down country roads, hands trembling, prayers whispered in German. They're waiting for barbed wire, concrete cells, the brutality they've been promised. But the trucks stop, and what they see makes no sense. Farmhouses, red barns, silos stretching toward blue sky, children waving from porches. Then a farmer approaches, weathered hands, kind eyes. He's carrying something impossible, a pitcher of fresh milk, April 1945. The war is ending, but the wounds are fresh. Germany is collapsing, cities in ruins, the Reich's final gasps playing out in bunkers and burning capitals. Among the captured, thousands of women who served in Luftwaffe auxiliary units, Wehrmacht Medical Corps, communications divisions. They weren't frontline fighters, but the Allies considered them prisoners of war nonetheless. Britain, overwhelmed with POWs, strikes a deal with America. Take thousands, ease the burden. The women are separated, loaded onto ships, transported across the Atlantic. They expect American prison camps, iron discipline, maybe worse. Instead, they're scattered across rural America, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, places with names they can't pronounce. The American military, facing a dilemma, makes a controversial choice: integrate them into the farm labor program. With millions of American men still overseas, the nation's farms are desperate. Harvest season looming. Cows need milking, fields need hands. The experiment begins. Can enemy women be rehabilitated not through punishment, but through kindness, through work, through exposure to the very people they were taught to hate, the rolling hills of Pennsylvania become the unlikely testing ground, where dairy farms stretch between valleys, and suspicious communities wonder why their government is sending Nazi women to their doorsteps. This is where ideology meets reality, where propaganda meets fresh milk. Inside the canvas-covered transport truck, 23 women sit in silence. Greta Hoffmann, 24, former Luftwaffe radio operator, stares at her hands. They won't stop shaking. She presses them together, tries to steady her breathing. Beside her, Liesl Brandt, just 19, a medical assistant who once dreamed of becoming a doctor, clutches a photograph of her mother. They've been traveling for hours. No one has told them where. They say Americans are worse than Russians to women, Liesl whispers in German, voice barely audible over the truck's engine. Don't speak, Greta hisses back. Don't make eye contact. Maybe they'll be quick. The propaganda films flash through her mind. The posters, the speeches. American soldiers are animals. They torture prisoners. They show no mercy to those who served the Reich. She'd believed it all. Now, as the truck slows, she closes her eyes. Whispers a prayer her grandmother taught her, touches the small iron cross hidden in her pocket, the one thing they didn't take from her. The truck stops. Voices outside, English, harsh, incomprehensible. The canvas flies open, sunlight blinds them. Out, move! They stumble onto gravel, not the expected concrete yard of a prison. A county fairground, converted, temporary structures, American flags snapping in the spring wind, guards everywhere, some hostile, some indifferent. A few, almost. Sympathetic? Sergeant Robert McKenna, Irish-American, 31, watches them file past. Lost his brother Tommy at Normandy. Every time he sees a German uniform, even these simple grey work dresses, his jaw tightens. But orders are orders. Treat them humanely. Geneva Convention, all that, still tastes like ash in his mouth. The women are processed. Medical checks, delousing stations, they expect brutality. Instead, it's clinical, professional, almost boring. Then comes the shock. Clean work dresses, not prison uniforms, simple cotton, blue and grey. They fit properly. Liesel touches the fabric, confused. Why are they not beating us? Greta has no answer. 3 days later, assignments are posted. Groups of 15 to 20 women sent to local farms. Labor contracts, supervised work programs. Greta, Liesel, and 18 others are loaded into another truck. This time, no canvas cover. They see the countryside, endless green. So different from bombed-out Germany. They arrive at Miller family farm. 200 acres of rolling pasture, dairy cows grazing, a white farmhouse with a porch, red barn freshly painted. Thomas Miller, 53, steps out. Quaker, practical man with calloused hands and tired eyes. Lost his eldest son, David, in the Pacific. But his faith demands peace. Even now, his wife, Martha, 50, stands beside him, speaks broken German, learned from her grandmother. Willkommen, she says. You work, you eat, you sleep. The women stare. They're shown to the converted barn, clean, real beds with mattresses, blankets, windows with actual glass, a wood stove for heat. Liesel starts crying. Can't help it. Expected concrete floors and rats. Greta remains suspicious. It's a trick, she whispers, to make us weak before the interrogation. But no interrogation comes. First morning, 5 a.m. A bell rings. Gentle. Not the screaming wake-up calls they expected. They're led to the farmhouse kitchen. Hand Greta Hoffmann's world tilts. The table is set. Real plates, not mess tins, forks, knives, cloth napkins, eggs, scrambled, golden, bacon, crispy, filling the air with impossible smell, fresh bread, real butter, not the grey margarine of ration cards, strawberry jam. The women stand frozen in the doorway. Martha gestures. Sit, eat. They sit, slowly, like wild animals at a trap. Then Thomas Miller enters from the barn, carrying a ceramic pitcher. He sets it on the table, fresh milk, still warm from the morning milking. Foam on top. The white so pure it almost glows in the morning light. Liesel's hands shake as she reaches for it. Hasn't seen real milk in 3 years. Germany's rationing, then the British camp's grey gruel and powdered substitutes. She pours. The sound alone is beautiful. Lifts the glass and breaks. Tears streaming down her face, can't stop them. The taste, creamy, rich, sweet, alive, floods her with memories. Her mother's kitchen. Sunday mornings before the war. When milk was just milk, not a luxury, not a weapon, not a symbol. Greta watches, frozen. It's poisoned, she whispers. It must be. Martha Miller, understanding without words, pours herself a glass, drinks, smiles gently. Keine Gift, she says. No poison. Greta drinks. And for the first time since the war began, she tastes peace. Thomas, through his youngest son Jacob, 16, tall, awkward, translating, says simply, cows don't know about wars. Milk is milk. Greta stares at him. How can our enemy feed us like family? After breakfast, work begins. They expect brutality. Impossible quotas, punishment for slowness. Instead, they get instruction. Thomas shows them how to muck stalls properly, how to spread fresh hay, how to collect eggs without startling the hens. Martha demonstrates feeding routines for the calves. It's hard work. Their muscles ache, hands blister. But the Millers work beside them, not above them. Alongside, Jacob, shy and curious, shows Liesel how to milk a cow, his hands guiding hers, showing the rhythm. Gentle, he says. She'll give more if you're kind. Liesel laughs, actually laughs, first time in months. The absurdity strikes Greta like lightning. We are enemies. They are teaching us their livelihood, trusting us with their animals, their food. Nothing makes sense anymore. The initial terror fades. Confusion replaces it. Then something more dangerous, cautious trust. Every day brings new impossibilities. Mid-morning, the coffee ritual. The farmers take a break, sit on hay bales. Thomas produces a thermos, pours coffee into tin cups. Real coffee. The women, used to Ersatzkaffee, acorn substitute, bitter and weak, can't believe the smell. Martha offers them cups, adds real sugar, actual white sugar. Greta drinks. The taste is strong, bitter, but energizing. Alive. In Germany, she tells Liesel quietly, even officers couldn't get this. Thomas, hearing, nods. War makes thieves of coffee and kindness both. The Millers are devout Quakers. They attend meeting house every week. This Sunday they bring the POWs. The community explodes. Neighbors who lost sons, brothers, husbands. They see German women in their church and rage ignites. One farmer, Harold Peterson, spits at Greta's feet. My boy died at Hurtgen Forest because of you people. Greta freezes, can't breathe, but Thomas Miller steps between them, firm, unmovable. We don't fight evil with evil, Harold. That's not our way. The meeting continues. Silent worship. Greta sits, trembling, surrounded by people who have every right to hate her, and then, at the end, an elderly woman touches her shoulder, says nothing. Just touches her. Liesel, watching, feels something crack inside. They pray for us. We were told they had no souls. Everything she believed is unraveling. Martha bakes a cake. Real cake. With frosting, she sets the table, invites the POW women to sit. They sing Happy Birthday in English. The women stumble through the words, pronunciation terrible, but they try. Jacob blushes, embarrassed and pleased. Greta watches the candles flicker. And suddenly she's crying. Can't stop, Martha notices. Sits beside her. Says nothing. Just takes her hand. He's 17, Greta whispers in broken English. My brother was 17, Stalingrad. Martha squeezes her hand. All mothers grieve the same. And in that moment the war ends for Greta Hoffmann. Not officially, not legally, but in her heart. Because how can you hate someone who mourns with you? Who feeds you cake on their son's birthday? Who holds your hand while you cry for your enemy brother? The women are allowed to write letters home. Censored, of course. Liesel struggles with hers. How do I explain? They treat us better than our own army treated us. They feed us, teach us, include us. The guilt is overwhelming. Survivor's guilt mixed with the bitter shame of benefiting from enemy kindness. While her homeland starves, I don't know if I'm prisoner or guest anymore, she tells Greta one night. Greta has no answer. Sergeant McKenna arrives for monthly inspection. He watches the women working, laughing while collecting eggs, helping Martha hang laundry. His brother died 9 months ago. These women laugh. He finds Thomas in the barn. You're feeding Nazis, McKenna says, flat, angry. Thomas looks at him, steady. I'm feeding human beings. God doesn't ask their nationality before he sends rain. My brother, I know. I lost my son too, David, 22, Okinawa. Thomas's voice breaks. You think I don't feel it? Every time I see them. But revenge won't bring him back. Cruelty won't resurrect the dead. McKenna has no response. He leaves. But the conversation haunts him. American papers, with photographs Auschwitz, Dachau, Bergen-Belsen, the liberation photos, the skeletal survivors, the mass graves, the gas chambers. The women crowd around, silent. Some refuse to believe. Propaganda. Allied lies, but others. Greta stares at the images. The systematic horror, the industrial murder. We didn't know, someone whispers. They told us it was lies, another says. But Liesel, staring at the photos, whispers, how could we not know? The shame is crushing. Were they monsters? Were they fools? Were they both? Greta walks to the barn, sits alone in the dark. The milk pitcher sits on a shelf. Empty now, fresh milk. Such a simple thing. She realizes they're showing us what we fought to destroy, not with punishment, with kindness. With the simple act of sharing what they have, the strategy is brilliant. Cruel in its gentleness, make them see Americans as human. Question everything. Break them with decency. It's working. Harvest complete. Repatriation orders arrive. The women will return to Germany, to the ruins, to the hunger, to the unknown. Their last morning at Miller Farm, Martha packs food for their journey. Bread, cheese, apples, and 6 bottles of fresh milk. The goodbyes are tearful. Addresses exchanged. Promises to write. Jacob gives Liesel a small American flag. Folded carefully. Remember us as we were, he says softly. Not as they told you. Thomas shakes Greta's hand. You were never our enemies. You were their victims too. Greta nods. Can't speak. As the truck pulls away, she watches the farm disappear. The White House. The Red Barn. The fields where she learned that enemies can be kind, that evil is not inevitable, that ordinary human decency is the most revolutionary weapon of all. Years later, Greta Hoffmann would write in her memoir, "We came as enemies. We left as what? Not friends. Not quite forgiven, but changed. That milk tasted like everything we'd been lied to about. They defeated us not with cruelty, but with the one weapon we couldn't fight, ordinary human decency. Every morning in that Pennsylvania farmhouse we sat at the table as equals. We drank from the same pitcher. We broke the same bread, and slowly we remembered what it meant to be human." Most German women POWs returned home in 1946. Many kept in contact with their American farming families for decades. Letters crossing the Atlantic. Photographs of children. Shared grief. Shared hope. In war we expect monsters. Sometimes we meet farmers with fresh milk. Instead, and that changes everything, the pitcher sits empty on the table. But what it held and that simple gift of ordinary kindness echoes across generations, reminding us that even in our darkest moments, even when ideology demands we see enemies, sometimes we see humans instead and choose milk over monsters.